What's the hidden cost of being too fucking accommodating? Every time you over accommodate somebody, you give away a piece of your emotional energy, and eventually you're going to realise you've got nothing left for you. Hello Green V's, I am Tasha B, aka the Sweary Therapist, and I transform beautifully introverted women over 40 into super women who have got their own emotional empowerment without burnout, guilt, stress or people pleasing. You know what sneaks into our lives too easily? Giving away too much without even noticing it. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens bit by bit, very slowly. Things like, sure, I don't mind. Or, yep, I can squeeze that in. Or a smile when you actually want to scream. But every time you over accommodate, you are giving away a piece of emotional energy. And eventually you look around and you've got none left for yourself. So this is the hidden cost of being too over accommodating and how to stop it before it drains you completely. Over accommodating feels like we're being kind, and it looks like we're being helpful and caring and flexible. But if we look at what's going on underneath, it's often fear driven, because we're saying yes because we're trying to avoid conflict or rejection or guilt. We want people to feel safe or better, so we reduce the necessity for us to feel safe or better. Here's the science part. When you constantly override your own needs to keep the peace or avoid conflict or avoid rejection or avoid feeling guilty, your nervous system reads that as danger. In my last video, I'll drop a link to it. I talked about what the nervous system is all about, and we can't talk to our nervous system like I'm talking to you now. There's no point saying to your nervous system, calm down, we'll be all right in a minute. It doesn't work. Our nervous system needs us to communicate with it in a different way. So, but if we're constantly overriding our own needs, our nervous system reads that as danger. It triggers the stress hormones, and we live in a constant state of low level tension, which is only going to increase as time goes on and turns into exhaustion, resentment, emotional burnout, feeling invisible, feeling unheard, underappreciated, and for me, the worst part, disconnected from yourself. Let me tell you about a client called, well, I'm going to call her Anna. She's in her late 40s, very successful in her career, which she works at full time. She runs her household like a pro. Everyone leans on her, colleagues, friends, family. And she told me one day, I don't even know what I like anymore. I'm just doing, I'm just getting through the day. And that's the perfect definition of the hidden cost of over accommodation. Anna spent so much time making sure everybody else felt okay, she completely lost connection with herself. And the turning point for her was when we started noticing one question. When or where did I say yes when actually I wanted to say no? Now, don't misunderstand me. She didn't overhaul her life overnight. There was no magic fix. It just started with one small boundary inside her head, one loving limit that said, do I actually want to say yes to this? Or do I feel I mean no? And initially, what came out of her mouth was nothing different. It was just noticing. But it was tiny. She fully owned that moment. And it was a connection to her. And that's the mind shift she needed to begin to put other things into place. How do you know if you're over-accommodating? Because there's always times, we live in a society, there's always times when you have to let your needs give way for somebody else's. But how do you know that you're doing that perhaps too much? So here's a few sneaky signs. You feel chronically tired. Even when you get 8 hours of sleep, you get irritated really easily, but you can't put into words what you're irritated at or why you're irritated. Is that the same thing? I can leave it. You find yourself, this is so me, you find yourself mentally rehearsing what you should have said after a conversation. And for me, this is usually in the middle of the fucking night when actually I need some sleep. You notice you're doing things just to keep the peace. And that becomes something that could be a tattoo on your arse, just to keep the peace. And you feel unheard, but actually you're part of that because you're not able to express what you actually need because you're disconnected from that part of you just to keep the peace. Just notice, where or when did I say yes when I wanted to say no? And just notice it. There's no guilt, there's no shame, there's no analysis. Let's just notice that, because self-awareness is what brings connection back. And self-awareness, along with your authentic voice, which is what we're trying to connect to, are two of the most powerful tools in your emotional arsenal. When you're ready, and it might not be today, it might not be next week, it'll be when you're ready. You set one small loving limit. Got a video about that. I will put a link to it. You put a loving limit in that shows that you love you, such as, I'll check my diary and get back to you. Not an automatic yes. You will turn your phone off an hour before bed because you recognise that actually scrolling through your phone, checking for emails or supporting a friend isn't perhaps the thing that's going to get you best place for a night of good sleep. You might decide that a loving limit for you is, before you answer any question, you're going to take a deep breath, because that resets your nervous system and tells it that you're safe. So you can make a decision from a place of safety rather than a place of fear. And then as you find these loving limits that work for you, you can either expand upon them or you can add more. It completely depends on what works for you, because you don't need, there seems to be this idea that to look after yourself, you need to become hard or cold or aggressive. You don't need to be any of those things. You just need to have a degree of self-awareness through honesty with yourself and connect to your authentic voice. Now, your authentic voice might not be the thing that comes out of your mouth, but it might be closer to your authentic voice than it once was, because that honesty with yourself, that self-awareness, that authentic voice finding is the most radical form of self-care.
If you want more of this sort of thing, come and hang out in the Becoming Hive, my free Facebook community for quietly rebellious introverted women over 40. There's a link below. In the Becoming Hive, we talk real strategies, no fluff, no bullshit. You could also like this video, comment on this video and subscribe to this channel. Dust off your throne and polish your crown, Queen, because when you are well, the whole hive thrives. Until next time, swear softly, rebel radiantly, and buzz bravely.